how do we allow that same kind of startup mentality to fuel something that is more ambitious, that's bigger than just, I want to cover my neighborhood, I want to cover a niche, I want to cover one
A
kind of
niche?
destination.
Well, I want to mention.
It's pretty broad.
Right. Well, I look at mine
But the
as broad,
Huffington
too.
Post is kind of more VC funded.
But you see all the money goes there. I mean, look at ProPublica. Look at Ariana Huffington. I got a friend who just got a job with their investigative fund up in Washington. Where I see, I mean, from my vantage point, it's the locals. I mean, what I'm trying to do is replace the coverage that I believe has been lost in Broward County. Okay.
And it has.
And I've reserved the names Miami Bulldog and Palm Beach Bulldog in case this thing works, and I can do it there. But I mean, we all know
Yeah.
that. I mean, the Sun Sentinel has retreated from South Broward. The Herald has retreated. I mean, I've been a reporter for 30 years. I've watched them retreat all to the state. Now, I mean, they haven't announced they're pulling out of Broward, but boy, it sure looks like it. You know, not tomorrow, but very soon, I think. So there's just a lot of less reporters' feet on the ground out there doing this, and to my mind, you know, there's no mechanism there. You know, I've had to go to some private guy who I know to be able to get enough seed money to go out and buy paper and, you know, stuff like that to do this. I'm not taking any money now. I'm not going to be taking any money through the end of the year, and if I did, I wouldn't get much because I don't have much. But it's that. Though that's the problem that I see, because there's got to be. I'm sure there's other people like me that would like to start these elsewhere. But I mean, I've you know, fortunately been in a good position. My wife continues to work, so I don't have to worry about bennies. I've got, you know, I've got a mortgage, but I don't have any particular debt, so I'm financially situated pretty well that I can do this. But there's a lot of people that could not, and yet I'm finding it very difficult to even come up with, you know, $10,000-$20,000 when I've estimated in a number of different applications for foundation grants that I basically figure I need about $300,000 to make this work for a year. If I'm going to have a staff of people covering the very basics, covering the courts, covering education, covering schools, the county, you know, things like that, and just in Broward County alone. And I'm basing that on the fact that that's what the Voice of San Diego began with 5 years ago. But what they've managed to do is exactly, you know, what Gary said. They've weaned themselves off, not completely yet. They've weaned themselves away from this guy, you know, sugar daddy, for lack of a better word, who helped them out at the beginning, and you know, they've managed to build a base within the community. So from their model, I know that it can be done. Whether it can be done in Broward County remains to be seen. But
You had a question.
You're both nonprofits. If Dan was to come to you and say, I'd like to use your content, I can't pay you, I'll give you some recognition the way the AP does, but it would be sort of a partnership like we've heard about, would you do that?
Sure.
we discussed that at dinner before we.
Sure. I mean, in fact, I wanted to thank the Miami Herald because a lot of newspapers around the state are picking up our stuff through AP, and it's hard as heck to tell from the story that we ran it or what we are. But the Herald always puts our website next to the story. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Oscar.
Yeah, I'm Oscar Corral. I used to work at the Miami
How you
Herald.
doing?
And now I have a business doing explanatory.
You have to come over here and say this.
Videos and 3D animations. I have a question, just I guess a self-serving question. Where do you all see the role of video in journalism?
I want to use
Being
it.
that it's proliferated so much and it's so popular. Where do you see
I linked to videos that illustrate, like today when I ran the story, I picked up the link to the story about out of the Sun Sentinel about the two being arrested at Cigna. And by the way, they didn't even mention that it was a peaceful, nonviolent demonstration with people strumming guitars and singing hallelujah songs. I mean, the best part of the story wasn't even there. But anyway, there was a YouTube video that somebody had taken from the group, and I was able to post a link to that. So I'm finding that those videos are being posted on the web. I don't have to pay for those. I can actually link to them. Thank God I don't have to pay for it. I mean, nobody's asked me this, but I'm sure you'll walk out and say, I should have asked her that. Our budget's just $175,000 this year, and we're working with a full-time editor, a half-time executive director, a half-time marketing person, 3 or 4 correspondents at any given time who are part-time by the piece working, and webmaster, and so for 175 we squeeze dollars till they scream.